Welcome you all for today's session on home security, on leading in cyber defense security with next generation tools from home security. Myself, Rahul, I'm the product manager for home security from Bulwark Distribution. Along with me, I have the co-panelist, Mr. Klaus Nelson, who is the CMO of home security, as well as Mr. Daniel Bizina, who heads the customer success in home security. Uh, on today's agenda, we'll be discussing on introduction to Bulwark, who is the value-added distribution for home security. We'll be talking on automatic scanning of vulnerabilities in a customer environment. We also will be discussing on how home security helps a customer on instance classification, prioritization, and notification of most critical vulnerabilities. We also will be discussing on various licensing models and also the multi-tenancy licensing for the MSSP partners. We also will be discussing on how home security integrates with the customer's existing tools, which will be followed by a question and answer session. Bulwark, we are a cybersecurity value-added distribution in the region for information security solutions. We are there in the Middle East market for almost 23 plus years. We are operative in India for the past 6+ years. We established our office in 1999 in the Middle East and in 2017 in India. We also carry 28 plus technology vendors, and we also have 750 plus business partners in Middle East and in India. Now, we discuss why Bulwark. Yeah. So Bulwark has an established excellent track record in delivering world-class products and excellent customer service. Also, Bulwark is partnered with best of the breed technology vendors. We also offer award-winning products with excellent customer service. We deliver round-the-clock value-added service through our partner network across Middle East, ASC, and Indian subcontinent region. We also work as an extended arm of our security vendors whom we represent in the region by promoting and selling the IT security products and solutions through our reseller channel partners. We also have a dedicated sales, marketing, and certified technical team for the products which we carry. From now on, I will pass this floor to Mr. Klaus Nelson to take it forward. Yeah, Klaus, over to you.
Thank you very much, Rahul. And just let me quickly share my screen so you can see my presentation. All right. Well, thank you very much, and nice to be here. I am here today representing home security, and I'll be discussing the topic of next-gen vulnerability management, keeping you one step ahead of cyber criminals. As for the agenda, we will be covering first the cyber threat, what is vulnerability management, the problem that customers of yours will be facing and how to solve it, why is next-gen vulnerability management, home security specific next-gen vulnerability management solution, including customer management, a demonstration, and ready-made integrations, and just why home security to end. My name is Klaus Nelson. As mentioned, I am the CMO and head of customer success here at Home Security, and I'm joined today by Daniel Bizina, who is the customer support team lead. I will start with the introductions and the background information, and Daniel will be taking you through more details about the platform and also doing a demonstration for you. With that in mind, let me jump into my presentation. So first, before anything else, we all know that cybersecurity is quite a threat to our companies or our customers' companies. The challenge that they face is multitude in nature, but one of the fundamental issues they have is lack of insight and knowledge. Based upon our own data that we have collected throughout our customer base of about 800 customers, we see that about 95% of them don't know how vulnerable their IT environments are. And about 90% of them don't know how vulnerable their employees are. and 85% of them lack the knowledge of how to protect their cloud and container environment. So it's quite a significant percentage here, as you can see. And as they say, if you don't know, you cannot fix. In addition to that, it's increased risk in cyber war. So nowadays, cybersecurity threat from cyber criminals doesn't necessarily concentrate only to the hooded individual that you see here in the back. In actual fact, cyber criminal organizations, and I say organizations because many times they are large organizations who actually do this on a global scale. But in addition to that, many times cyber criminals is actually also funded by or created by other countries around the world who actually use this in a cyber warfare context. And what they go after is all the critical infrastructure, such as energy or transportation or healthcare or etc. So actually, you don't need to do battlefield type of warfare any longer. You can fight this war in the cyber internet space instead, and actually, you could create some significant damage to that country by, let's say, for instance, suddenly not allowing everyone to have access to the basic services such as electricity or water. And obviously you can create a lot of chaos as a consequence of that. Or you can bring things like the financial sector to its knees and so on. So in other words, we're not just talking about the individual hooded who goes after and maybe steals a little bit of data from one person, but actual fact, this is happening on a much larger scale in today's world. In addition to that, there is a drastic increase in ransomware, one of the top ways for cyber criminals to actually get paid for their efforts. And in 2023, there are 1.7 million ransom attacks every day, which means there is a new ransomware attack happening every 19 seconds. So it's significant amount of attacks that's happening. And therefore, any organization that is internet facing or has a way for them to be targeted, which in most cases, that's all companies today, you are can be a target for this. And it is estimated that by 2031, which is not too far away, the industry that these cyber criminals are in will actually be able to go up to $265 billion that they are able to get from this business. And again, I say business because it's organized, it's not individuals any longer. So again, a significant amount to take into consideration. What is also happening, of course, as a consequence of this, which is the other side of the coin, is growing regulatory demands. Many companies are now being, forced to, for the right reasons, which is to firm up their cybersecurity defenses and follow certain standards and ways of working, processes, and so on. And here's one example, which is the Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard, or PCI DSS, which has just introduced a new standard, which is called version 4, that will go into effect in 2025. And they have a lot more strict requirements on their customer base that they need to follow to make sure that the card-to-card transaction data or the customer data associated with it is not stolen or taken over and used by these cyber criminal organizations. So of course, the way to combat this is, of course, for the organizations to do something about it. But many times they are, again, forced to do so by standards, and they need to know how they comply to these standards. Because again, if they don't comply and they do become a victim of a cyber criminal, then it's even worse, not only because they may need to be slapped with a ransomware attack, but they potentially also can be faced with high bills or end up in court and actually being quite significantly, it could destroy the business, to be honest. So with that in mind, what they really need to know, all of these companies we're talking about, is they need to know where are their company at risk. In other words, where is the threats? Where are they vulnerable so that someone can go and steal the data, get access to their transaction data or credit card data, etc. And the reality is that quite a lot of companies know, as I said earlier, know some threats, so the top of the iceberg. But the reality is there is so much more underneath that what you can see at the surface, in other words, the iceberg under the water, that they don't know, the unknown threats. And this is where, in most cases, companies simply just do not know, are they protected? And even if it is that you say they have some level of insights, in most cases it's very siloed or segmented, so they may know some parts of their network but not the totality. And again, the only way you can be truly assured that you are not going to fall victim and become a part of the statistics that I just talked about, you need to know where is all your risk across all of your IT infrastructure, across your entire organization. So a process was developed many years ago, and which was called vulnerability management, or was named vulnerability management. And what it is the cyclical practice of identifying, classifying, prioritizing, remediating, and mitigating vulnerabilities. In other words, making sure that you know where they are, these vulnerabilities, how bad are they, be able to prioritize which ones I should be focusing on first, because no organization, regardless of size, can do all of the vulnerabilities at the same time. Of course, then fix those vulnerabilities and make sure that they cannot be taken advantage of, and of course, mitigating the aspect of these type of vulnerabilities that you have. So that's what vulnerability management is as a definition. And the vulnerability management process starts over here. So the first thing you do is you map your assets. So you identify all of the assets that you have throughout your organization. You then scan those assets, looking for vulnerabilities, such as vulnerabilities as like outdated software and so on. You then create a notification around which of these systems are vulnerable or have deficits into that. And then you start to, of course, manage these assets around that, in the sense of, I want to fix this one first before that one, and so on. So the prioritization part. Then you remediate. In other words, you fix the vulnerability. So again, let's say it is the operating system that needs updating. So you update the operating system. And then, of course, you verify to make sure that that operating system has been fixed. And you then report on the number of vulnerabilities that you have fixed versus the number of vulnerabilities you still have. And the cycle goes on and on. And so that is the vulnerability management process in its foundation. So really what your customer needs is a quick and complete overview of all the risk and vulnerabilities within their environments. They want to be in the know. They want to know where they're vulnerable, where their risks are, and they want to make sure that they understand how to prioritize these risks that they need to fix, and be able to, of course, fix them or remediate them. So information, all their assets provided in one view, so they can understand their vulnerabilities in context to all the assets in their environment. So it's not only, of course, a matter of knowing where you're vulnerable, but also, as I said earlier, related to prioritization. So one example of this, for instance, is your business critical systems, or your systems that holds customer data or credit card transactions, like we talked about earlier. You want to prioritize these systems above others who may not have, the same level of, say, business importance. So you need to understand the context of these vulnerabilities and how they could potentially impact your business if a cyber criminal would be able to gain access to these systems. So what you could do, of course, is you can use many different tools that's out there, extract data from these various tools going across different types of technologies, and then put these into Excel and go through those with your customers. But that's quite intensive and repetitively work, and it requires quite a lot of manual work that needs to be done to be able to draw those kind of conclusions out. So what really is the better way is, of course, to be able to scan the entire IT infrastructure automatically discover new systems and servers in the system. Again, it doesn't matter if in today's world, IT networks constantly change and augment, and you need to make sure that you're constantly aware of what gets added into the network and what gets taken out. So automatically discover new assets as they come into the network. And then make sure you automate your team's manual work so they can serve more customers, of course, but also provide detailed vulnerability insights automatically across the entire infrastructure so that automatically they would know where to focus, what vulnerabilities they have, and in most cases, you can even go ahead and fix these depending on the type of services that you provide. So with that in mind, this is why the next-gen vulnerability management solution from Holm Security comes in. Quickly on home security. So we've been in operation since 2015, and we have customers worldwide, and we have about 800 customers, as I mentioned earlier, across all of these different geographic regions that we're in. Within that, we offer them something we call next-gen vulnerability management, and it has these main 4 pillars of technology advances that ensures that our customers of this next-gen vulnerability management are able to address the issue that you saw earlier related to the iceberg. So first thing is unparalleled attack vector coverage. So we need to make sure that all the different types of attack types that the cyber criminal could use to be able to try to gain entry. Obviously, he will not only try one way, he will try multiple ways to get in. We need to make sure that we can cover all the different types of vectors, attack vectors that he can use to be able to gain into your environment so that we can detect vulnerabilities across them all. We need to make sure that we can automatically bring in and update your IT organization or the customer's IT infrastructure when it changes. If there's any changes today, there's a new device that gets introduced. This is not manual, but rather auto-discovered and added into the total list of assets that we need to manage. And of course, they get included into the scan and identified if there's any vulnerabilities to that. Smart threat intelligence, this is what I talked about earlier, making sure that we take in intelligence so that we can help to prioritize the type of threats, making sure that the threats that we're fixing are the more critical ones. And then through unification, making sure we understand the relationship between the threats, such as, for instance, let's say you have a computer on that computer, or let's say you have a system, and on that system you're running some web applications. Then you want to make sure that you understand both the operating system side of that system that it's running on, but also the applications that run on top of it and how they correlate. So again, if there is a vulnerability in the system or when the web app runs on, you want to make sure that you can then say that the relationship between the two, so you understand the prioritization of what you need to fix first, because this must be a business critical system, and this web application is what serves your customers, let's say, is again customer facing, and also serves your customer for a customer portal, as an example. So on attack vector covers, as I mentioned, we need to cover all the different types of attack vectors that's out there, anything from your business critical systems, your web apps, your APIs, your computers, your OT SCADA systems, et cetera, So we need to make sure that we can cover them all, and you have a consolidated view across all of these different type of attack vectors, including the users of the systems. So the way this works from a Holm Security next-gen vulnerability management platform perspective is that we look at all these different types of solutions or infrastructure to have in an IT environment wherein the attack vectors are targeted against by using these different type of attack surface management products that we have that looks at different types of products, anywhere from your system network scanning to your web applications or your APIs or your cloud infrastructure, etc. We're able to then pull that data in to be able to understand if it is that they're configured correctly, if they have the latest software patches, etc. We then put it through the smart threat intelligence that I mentioned, so that you can tag these systems as business critical, but we will also auto tag these systems to say, okay, currently system number 24 has a vulnerability that's tied to it. This vulnerability has been used before by a ransomware attack somewhere else. So we will increase the priority to make sure that you know that this particular vulnerability or this particular outdated software, let's say, needs to be fixed as a high priority because others have already fallen victim to a ransomware attack using particularly these vulnerability. And then we put it into our system that gives you a true unified view of all of your vulnerabilities, and again, how they relate, all tied into what we call a risk score that allows you to immediately understand which ones of them are more of a threat versus others. With that in mind, I would like to hand over to Daniel, who will take you through more about how this works and also provide you with a demonstration. Over to you, Dan.
Thank you, Klaus. Yes, so I think you need to keep sharing your presentation right there because you had my slide.
Yes, I do.
Right there. It's the only slide I will cover, and then we will take an actual look at the product.
There you go.
Yes, so I just wanted to give you a brief overview of the potential orchestration of our product. So basically for you as a partner, everything starts in the multi-tenant solution that we provide, and it's called the Holm Security Organizer. And in the organizer, you can orchestrate and set up all your customers with their own specific security center accounts. And basically, security centers are where all the magic happens, right? That's where you input all your networks for the customer and make sure that you cover all these attack vectors that we previously discussed in the slides that Klaus had. So for instance, if you have local networks, you make sure to install scanner appliances for those premises so that you can cover those networks basically. For external networks and internet-facing devices in general, we as Home Security, we provide our customers with external scan engines, meaning that we have scanners placed in our data center which are ready for your disposal to scan your external systems to simulate exactly what everyone else would see if they were to scan those external systems from their end. I don't know if it's much else to say about this. I mean, this is just an overview about the different areas that we can cover, but we already discussed them in the previous slides, as mentioned. But this was just to give you an overall view and an understanding of how you as a partner can manage your different customers. So I think we'll jump into the security center and have an actual look at what one of those customers could potentially look like when you're setting them up. All right, so now I'm sharing my screen here. Let's see, I'm just gonna close some notifications real quick. All right, this one is jumping a little bit. Okay, anyway, once you get into Security Center, you will get to the dashboard that looks like this. The dashboard is there to give you an overall look on the different vulnerabilities and findings that we have in this specific account. So if you're logging into one of your customers, you can easily see what the current status is for their environment based on what they have added in their security center and what they're scanning and types of other activities that they're doing also. The first step to get started with all of this, I would say, is to install these scanner appliances. And we haven't covered really what a scanner appliance is, but it's a virtual machine that you install on the customer's premise to get access to scan the target systems, basically. So you need a point of scan somewhere in the environment which can reach the systems that you're interested in gathering data from. So for example, if you want to scan the central server network, you can install one in the central server network and get information from there to the cloud solution and have everything presented in one place, basically. For externally facing stuff like things that are already published on the internet, you don't need this since we are providing the external scan, and as I previously mentioned. So having one of these is it's fundamental for doing scans on local premises, basically. Once you have installed the scanner appliances and have as many appliances as you need, you could use one or you could use several depending on the network configuration at the customer. We start off by adding the networks that you are going to process within the security center. So it's very easy to get started here. Jump into Asset Manager and add the network asset. You can do an import from a CSV file to add multiple networks at once, or you can do a manual definition of what you want to import also by just adding some of these examples here. Yeah, we accept IP ranges, full networks, and single IPs. So yeah, every option that you could think of goes in here. You can also group the systems by using tags, and this could be convenient if if your customer has a large environment and you need to segment the different environments in different groups, for example. So it could be like you want to have a group for the DMZs, you want to have a group for the public-facing networks, for example. And that will make life much easier throughout the platform later on. Also, it will be easy to have selected scans towards specific groups and such also.
Daniel, sorry to interrupt, Daniel, but we don't see the changes as you're walking through the demonstration. You may need to just reshare the screen once more because it's not updating.
All right, give me a second there. I'll share like this then. Are you able to see a list of...
Yes, now it's better.
Yeah, okay. Let's see. So I was basically showing you guys this part here, and then I was highlighting tags over here. And you're free to create any tags that you want by yourselves and create any definitions and structures that you find suitable for the customer environment. We also, based on scans, take fingerprints on each and every asset that we scan. So we can see here, for example, we have flagged them as HP, HTTP, HTTPS, and these are tags created by the fingerprint of the actual scan engine. So we have detected that it's an HP operating system running, so probably some kind of printer. It has responded on HTTP and also HTTPS. So perhaps there is also some web layer connected on this specific asset. So this was just a short introduction to assets, but basically this is something that you manage once for the customer and help them add their environment. And then you go to scan network here, where you schedule and set up all your scans to make sure that you have this self-playing piano, which runs scans automatically, and you just process the results in the ways that you like, basically. And we will get more into details about the next gen parts and the unifications and all of those kind of things also. But I just wanted you guys to also understand the fundamentals here. That's why we're covering this. So setting up a network scan, very, very simple. You head over to scan network, add new scan, choose network scan and vulnerability scan. Set the name for the scan. For example, it could be externally facing systems. So you want to scan all your internet facing systems. Okay. You choose your scan profile. We have predefined profiles for most different practices. And they are all based on a specific set of rules for our scan engine and provides the best coverage at the best possible speed that we could provide. You can also deviate from these scan profiles and create your own profiles if you want to exclude some specific tests or do a specific scan towards just one specific CV, for example. So in this case, just as an example, we're trying to scan something external, and then we can choose the external appliance, which is available to all customers running our cloud solution. Targets, here is where you select what is it that you want to scan. So in this case, it could be, for example, public IPs here that we have tagged. So in this case, we have tagged all the IPs that are publicly available, and that's how we define the scope of the scan. But you could also select based on just networks or single IPs here if you want to scope something specifically. Yeah, and you can press run now if you want to run an on-demand scan, or you can choose to schedule the scan. And if you choose to schedule the scan, then you're creating this self-playing piano as I was talking about earlier. basically you have scans running on a weekly basis on a set time and day, which you know that the scans will run, and you know that within a couple of hours from that day every week, you will have a complete scan result over that environment that you have selected. You could, of course, scan several environments at once, depending on how large the environment is. But that's up to each and every customer and partner to decide. We, of course, in the support team can also provide you with best practices. So does our help desk and knowledge base articles also do. So there's plenty of information and things to learn more about regarding scan practices. So this is about network scan. It was very simple to set up. We installed the scan appliance, we added our assets, and we scheduled the scan. Basically from there, we have then completed one part of the attack vectors, and that is the system and network scanning. Then we have other parts and other areas also that we perhaps would like to cover, like for instance, our web applications. And those are separate assets. Those are based on the web URLs that you want to scan, and the subdomains and top domains that you wish to include. And what we do here is to completely different from network scanning. Network scanning is more in line with traditional port scanning, while web application scanning is more dynamic content crawling and checking if the content on a web page is sensitive to manipulation, basically, and different types of vulnerabilities that you can find within OWASP top 10 typically. So all the injection vulnerabilities and those kinds will be found here. But the procedure is basically the same as for network scanning. You add your assets the same way, but instead of network, you choose web applications. Let's go here. And here you add your different URLs. And here you can also specify if there are APIs on that URL, or if you want to do authentications on a specific web application, then you add them into the different property areas here, like authentication and REST API scanning. You provide a path to the Open API specification. And if you do so, the scan engine will automatically process those settings and use those in the next scan that you schedule. But it's the same thing as for network scanning. You choose the target, you choose the scan profile and point of scan, the scanner appliance, external or local, and then you choose your schedule. So now you have an understanding of how we gather information from different solutions within the product. Let's have a brief look at how the results look once you have completed some scans. And here is our unified vulnerability management. And here we can basically see a type of scoring that is not only related to CVSS score, but also takes into account other metrics that are very, very important when it comes to vulnerability management in general. So the next gen solution provides you with these predefined metrics that makes it easier for your customer and for you as a partner to define, okay, what is the most important things we should focus on. This takes into account, for example, how many assets were found vulnerable to this vulnerability. If it was found on assets that are more important than others, as you can also set the prioritization on business impact on each and every asset. This will also take this into account. If it has known exploits, it will also be flagged as a higher prioritized vulnerability. And also if it has known ransomware. In this case, it has both of them. It's found on a high business impact asset, which makes this a critical threat, basically. You can find details about the vulnerability right here. You can find what the solution is, How do I fix this problem? You can find a summary providing some brief information about the vulnerability, some insight which provides even more information, and then we have the detection, and this describes how the scan engine operates to find the vulnerability. And we can see which assets it is that are affected by this vulnerability. And in the overview, it said one asset, and here is the asset that is affected. You could also see related problems. So if this vulnerability also has relations with other CVEs, they will be listed here. In this case, there is no relations present, so it's therefore empty. You can also do a lot of management in regards to the vulnerabilities. So for instance, let's say that you find a vulnerability that you cannot do anything about, then you can also choose to go in to the regular view, and you can choose to ignore a vulnerability. Maybe you will break the functionality of the system by applying a patch. Maybe then we have to accept this risk, at least for the time being. And then you can set the expiration date for how long it should be accepted. If it's accepted for longer than, let's say, 5th of October, then the vulnerability will reappear once more and notify you that this vulnerability that you ignored previously because you accepted the risk will now be present again. It will be shown in the active results because it's still there. So the scanner will still detect the vulnerability even though you have ignored something, but it will just filter it out for the time being, basically. But it's always there, but it's in the background in a separate filtration. So you can always go to ignored and disabled and see, okay, what do I have unmanaged here? So yeah, you're not removing the vulnerability by doing that, but you're also creating less clutter by potentially filtering them out. The result is also very important because this is the actual output of the scan engine itself. So when looking at results, it's not always easy to understand why something was found just by looking at the generic solution or detection. Sometimes it's much easier to look at the specific output from the engine and see, okay, what did it actually find and what port was it, and all of those details. Then you have the results section here to get deeper information about the finding. You can make conversations with your colleague about the remediation process right here. These comments are also included in the reports as stated here. So if I were to generate a report with this vulnerability included, this comment here from Stefan would also be included in that report. And that could make a good use for you as a partner if you're managing this solution entirely for the customer and you only provide them with a report. You can also add comments into the report and perhaps give some explanations to different vulnerabilities and such. All right, so this was just a little bit of an understanding of the results and how they look like and how to manage them. There are obviously a plethora of more features and functions which I gladly would cover, but we don't have too much time. So I just want to keep mentioning some more of these attack vector coverages that we have before we wrap up, so you know the full capabilities of what we are able to do for your customers. And the next big thing here, I would say, is the Scan Cloud. This is basically a solution that scans your cloud resources for misconfigurations and features that are used or not used. And then we match them versus the cloud provider's own best practices and check, okay, how many fails do we have? How many passes do we have, etc., etc. And this does it on a resource level. So you can see here, for example, how many has the latest .frame version installed. And all of the 51 resources that we had in this environment passed this test. You can see here, for example, accelerated networking enabled, which is recommended by Microsoft in this case. 4 of our assets or our resources here did fail on that. So we can also click here to check what the solution is. And the solutions for the cloud scan are very pragmatic, I would say. It's always like step 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., etc. So you can follow these steps to mitigate and solve the problems that we find here by checking the solutions list. And we also provide with references here to Microsoft's own documentation in case, something is unclear from our solution. Then you can also double check with the Microsoft documentation. So yeah, we provide cloud scanning for AWS, Azure, and the Google Cloud. And this is basically something that is often referred to as CSPM, so Cloud Security Posture Management, which is a term used by several providers in this area. This is not to be confused with scanning infrastructure as network scanning within Azure or Google Cloud or what it might be. We also provide scanner appliances for AWS and Azure, and this is to do network scannings within those cloud environments, basically. So you spin up a scan appliance there to get the same coverage as you would for your local environments, but in this case, it would be for the cloud environment instead. We, of course, also have some reports, and we have a plethora of different kinds of reports and templates and stuff, but I will just show you like a very basic and fundamental report on a typical network vulnerability report. And this is what it looks like. It includes some details about what is included in this report. In this specific one, it's just one asset, nothing else. And this is just to make it simple to showcase. But you could include as many active hosts as you want to expand on this report. And it gives you a summary on the overall business risk and so on. This one didn't include the details. Sorry about that. Let's take another one. Here. All right, so same here. It's only one host, basically. You can see here that the vulnerabilities are also included in this report. So it's the same information as we were looking at previously in Vulnerability Manager, but it's presented in a PDF format instead. So you could use it for reporting towards your partners if reporting by PDF files is your preferred way to go. We also have several integration possibilities with a lot of systems. We will come to that. I have a separate slide to show you some things there also. Last but not least, we have a separate area called human assets and human risks, which is for phishing and awareness training. So basically, we also gather data from the users to see how those combine with the security of their clients, their laptops and the remote workforce, for example. We can also check how those risks go hand in hand and through the unified vulnerabilities and assets, basically. I don't think we have a lot more time for demo. So I will just stop right here so we have time for the Q&A. And also maybe we should cover the last slide there for the integrations. Yeah, so here's our ready-made integrations. So this is basically just plug and play with the different systems. This is just to give you an understanding of like we have a lot of coverage for integration. So most likely any kind of system that you are working with, we will be able to do some kind of integration with them. We also have a public REST API on our own. So we could also create custom integrations towards systems that are not listed in this view right here.
All right, great. Thank you, Daniel. And
Yeah.
just quickly before we run over or jump into the Q&A, so why would you maybe consider home security versus maybe some of the other solutions that you have of choice? So we are by far the most leading attack vector coverage. Not only do we cover, as we said earlier, related to technical risks, but we also cover human risks all in one integrated platform. In addition to that, as you see, we have unified views that allows you to get a much better understanding of the risks and how these risks relates to each other, so that it's not about the individual risk on its own, but rather the relationship of risks with business critical systems, and or if it is that it's related to different resources or different applications on the same device. More than just another vendor, we are very much on hand, and we're there to make sure that we provide you with the necessary support that you require to be able to achieve your objectives. And we're also the best choice for data privacy. We take very high pride in making sure that all data that we collect about any client is always segregated and encrypted, and no one has access to it, regardlessly, by using data neutral locations. And with that in mind, I would like to hand it back for our Q&A session, and thank you for listening. So Rahul or Rana for the Q&A session.
I close. Yeah, we are just waiting for any questions to come.
All right. Okay.
Klaus, one quick question from my side. I have seen that
Sure.
when you have shown the slide for the integration part, I noticed that there is a tight integration you have mentioned with the Teams or Slack, which is just the communication medium, right?
Yeah, maybe I can let you, Daniel, to talk a little bit more about the Slack integration related to the CIMB ticketing and communication.
Yeah, basically in this region of, specifically in the Middle East, we see most of the customers use the Microsoft Teams. So if you can just highlight what exactly it can do.
Right. Daniel, can you hear me? Have we lost Daniel?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Related to the integration to Microsoft Teams.
Yeah. So we have support for both Microsoft Teams and Slack, as shown in the slide there. What we do there is mainly to integrate different types of notifications and stuff. So if you want to be notified once a new critical vulnerability has been found that you haven't found in your environment before, you can set up notifications to warn you of those events. You could set up notifications for almost anything that you want to be notified about in relation to the product and the scans that are running or has been completed. So if a scan has been completed or a specific event has happened that you would like to be notified about, if a specific criteria is met, then you're notified in a dedicated channel, for instance.
Okay, thanks, Daniel.
Yep.
One next question from my side will be what are the key factors or parameters when we compare our solution with Tenable?
Did you about comparing to Tenable? Did you say?
Yes, Klaus.
Yeah. So I guess the biggest differentiating factor from us and Tenable is that Tenable is more, to say, segmented, meaning that they have individual point solutions. So they obviously offer a similar breadth of attack vector coverage as we do, at least on the technical side. So they do obviously have the ability to scan the system and network scanning or web application scanning or cloud scanning, but they actually have point solutions for this. So they're not a unified solution. It doesn't, it's not integrated into one view. And actually they do offer the possibility to then put an additional layer on top for this type of reporting, but they are more point solutions where we built our solutions from the beginning on the premise of having everything integrated into one, allowing us to be much more understanding of the relationship between vulnerabilities across different systems. And as I said, for instance, if there's a web application server that runs on a platform somewhere, you can then get the relationship. Or if you have Fred as a user and he is not good at doing vulnerability management training, or has fallen in the trap for one of the simulated emails that we send out, you can then also prioritize his particular device that he's using as more vulnerable because he's a threat to the organization. So this tight integration, because we built that with in mind from the time that we started. Whereas where Tenable comes from is that they build point solutions for these different things, and it's not tightly integrated together. So that's one thing. The other thing that's important to note also is the fact that we cover human assets as well, or the users as well. So we take into consideration the user, the human firewall, if you like. Actually, 90% of all attacks that happened wherein data is then either stolen or kept from ransom starts with the user. So even if you have the best, let's say, technical assured network in the world, then it's just one user giving away the username and password that gain access to the corporate network. So you have to make sure that you train the users in how to deal with phishing or attacks, as an example. And because, again, we integrate it together, we can then draw the relationship between the user and also the system that they are using, or the Windows device or laptop that they're using, whereas Tenable does not offer anything in regards to the user on the human firewall side. So those are two immediate things that I can draw.
Thanks, Klaus.
Any other questions?
Yeah, hi, Klaus. I think no one has any further questions on that.
All right.
It's good to go, but let's wind up.
Okay, well then, in that case, thank you everybody for listening, and look forward to any follow-up questions you may have, and we're here to help you, so please do reach out.
Yeah, thank you all. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Have a great day ahead. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.